Good morning, boys and girls. Welcome back. Last week we talked about the Passover and the being the last of the plagues, and Pharaoh had finally had enough. He told the people to go. Boys and girls, I don't know about you, but after being through all of those plagues, I'd sure be done with the people of Israel too and their God. I'd say, go away. I don't want to see you anymore. Well, Pharaoh's gonna come up again. But first, we have to talk about those Israelites who left Egypt and what God had in store for them. Well, they began traveling, and if you remember, they had left in a hurry. So they weren't driving, but good try, Peter. No cars back then. They didn't get to leave that fast. They had to go mostly on foot with the help of some animals. But in Exodus chapter 12, it talks about them leaving. In verse 37, it says, "And the children of Israel journeyed from Ramses to Succoth, about 600,000 on foot. That were men beside the children." That's a lot of people, boys and girls. 600,000 men besides the children who were also traveling. And then it goes on to say, "And a mixed multitude went up also with them, and flocks and herds, even very much cattle." So they were traveling with all of these animals. Boys and girls, what I've learned is when you travel with children, it takes longer. Okay, when you get out and you have to go to the restroom or do different things, it takes longer than just as a single person hopping in the car and taking a trip. Well, I can't imagine what it would have been like to travel with all of the herds and the donkeys and the cattle and all of these animals, and Peter too, and all of these animals going along, just the amount of time it would have taken. Well, they head out on foot. And they don't have a lot of resources with them, but the Bible talks about them traveling from place to place. And God had given them a pillar cloud, a cloud shaped like a pillar that led them by day. And God was in that cloud. And then when it was nighttime, that pillar was like a pillar of fire, and God was in there as well. And God used that pillar to lead them. He didn't want them, the Bible tells us, He didn't want them going through the land of the Philistines and getting into battles and then turning around and going right back to Egypt and saying, forget this. So He had taken them by a route through the wilderness, and He was using His cloud to guide them. Well, one day the Israelites start to look around them, and they look behind them. And do you know who they see coming? On chariots behind them, they see the Egyptians. What had happened was Pharaoh, one morning, one day, got up, looked around and said, wait a minute, my pyramids aren't getting built. My cities aren't getting built. Those bricks aren't getting made. And he started to look around, and the people started to look around and go, hey, we don't want to do it. We've had servants doing it. We don't want to do this. And Pharaoh's scratching his head going, why did I let the Israelites go? Boys and girls, he'd forgotten so quickly all that had happened. He had forgotten so quickly all of the power of God. But Pharaoh, as I said, he'd forgotten. He gets in his chariot, he gathers his army, they get in their chariots, and they take off. They are going to get the Israelites and bring them home. They said, we are going to get these Israelites and take them back. Well, the Israelites, they're going, we can't really run. We can't get away all that fast. They had people of all ages, from babies to elderly, plus all the animals. They can't outrun an army. So they start to complain to Moses, like, Moses, why did you bring us out of Egypt? We could have just stayed in Egypt. Wow. Not only did Pharaoh forget, but now the Israelites have forgotten all that God did in bringing them out of Egypt. So quickly, they'd forgotten God's power. And they started to complain. Moses, it's all your fault. If I were Moses, I'd be like, forget it. You guys can get attacked by the Egyptians. I'm done with you already. But good news, Moses doesn't. Moses is more patient than I am. And Moses goes to God. He does what he should have, and he prays. And he prays to God, and he asks God, what should I do? Like, this is an army versus us. What can I do? And God tells him, He says, reach your hand with your staff out over the Red Sea and I will make a way for you to cross. I'd left out that detail, boys and girls. When they looked behind them and saw the army, what they saw in front of them was a great sea that they couldn't cross. Maybe you could think of going and looking at the Great Lakes or Lake St. Clair. Go to Lake. Yeah, Peter brought along his water shirt there from Daytona Beach, Florida. Okay, looking out at the Pacific Ocean, or Atlantic Ocean, wrong ocean, Atlantic Ocean there. But we have the Great Lakes around here, Lake St. Clair, or the St. Clair River. You look out at that body of water. Can you imagine, boys and girls, that you're getting chased? Okay, let's think of it like a giant game of tag. You're getting chased and you have the person right behind you, and what's in front of you is a great body of water. Well, this was a body, swim. They weren't going to swim this one, Peter. It's almost too big to swim. Well, the Israelites are looking at that going, we've got this great body of water, we've got the enemy behind us, and God tells Moses, stick your rod out over the water. And he does. And the Bible tells us that all that night, a great wind out of the east blows on the Red Sea, and it blows and it blows and it blows, and it's parting the Red Sea. Well, I was thinking about this, boys and girls. If the Israelites were able to see the Egyptians, how did they keep them away all night? The Bible tells us that that cloud that God was in, he actually put between them. Instead of it being in front of the Israelites, now it's behind the Israelites, it's in front of the Egyptians, and it basically kept the two from seeing each other all night long. It kind of made it dark and blinding the Egyptians, but light for the Israelites to see. Well, that next morning, when they looked, that water in front of them had split, like wide, both sides, moved apart. And boys and girls, if you've ever been out after it's rained, you know how muddy the ground gets and mucky? The ground was as dry as could be. The Lord had dried that water. Well, the Israelites, they start walking across. I don't know about you, boys and girls, I do have a fear of drowning. I think I'd be a little hesitant to walk where the Red Sea had just been. Good news, the Israelites, they were more afraid of the Egyptians. They walked across on dry land. They took all their animals across. Those 600,000 people crossed the Red Sea on dry land, and they looked beside them, and they could probably see the fish in the water. Wouldn't that be cool? Some of you'd probably try and reach out and touch it, or maybe there were turtles that Peter would. Peter likes animals a lot. Maybe they would try to reach out and touch it. I don't know. Maybe the mom said, don't touch it, it might break or it might come down. But they crossed on the Red Sea. Well, they got across, and now the cloud is leading them where they should go. God is leading them, and the Egyptians, okay, now again, the Egyptians have seen all of the plagues. They've seen the mighty power of God, but they are so focused on doing what they want to do, all 10 plagues. They were so focused on doing what they were going to do that they didn't think about what had happened. They didn't use their brains, boys and girls. They were so focused on getting their way that they went right after the Israelites, right down across the Red Sea. Well, God gets angry with them, and he says, I'm going to show my power to Pharaoh once and for all. This is going to be it for Pharaoh. Well, the Bible tells us that the wheels actually fell off of the wagons, or the chariots. God made all the wheels fall off. And they're still trying to get their horses to go. They're still trying to get their chariots, horses leading their chariots to pull them along. And they're just so bogged down. You ever try to pull a wagon that the wheels fell off of? It's a little hard. So they try to go, and then all of a sudden it's kind of like, oh, all of our wheels fell off at the same time. This wasn't an accident. Perhaps we should go back. So the Egyptians decide they should go back, but it is too late. God has Moses stick his rod back out, and that water comes crashing down on the Egyptians. And the Bible tells us that every single one of them died. All of them who had come chasing after the Israelites, including Pharaoh, God killed that day in the Red Sea. Boys and girls, Pharaoh didn't acknowledge God's power. He did for a brief bit when he let the Israelites go, but he didn't really believe in his heart who God was. He didn't remember what God had done, and it cost him his life. Boys and girls, what about you? Are you like the Israelites? Are you quick to forget the things God does for you or that your parents do for you? Are you quick to complain and say, but I wanted Mom and Dad make you a nice party or something, and they left a detail out? Mom makes your favorite dinner, but she forgot to buy the ranch dressing. Yeah, Peter likes ranch dressing. But are you quick to complain, boys and girls, that you can have 10 nice things in front of you, but you're missing one little thing and that's all you can focus on? Or do you focus on what God has given you and the blessings that you have and the parents you have who want to do nice things for you? What is your focus on, boys and girls? What you don't have or what you do have? I hope this week, boys and girls, that you'll think of the Israelites and you won't complain and wish that you were somewhere else, but you'll remember what God has done for you. We're going to find out with the Israelites. They don't learn too quick. See you next